The radio hummed a tired country tune as I turned onto Maple Street, the heart of Millfield, Ohio, where picket fences and manicured lawns whispered promises of normalcy. My shoulders eased, my jaw unclenched, the warehouse's daily grind fading with each familiar mailbox. 14 years of this commute had carved a rhythm into my bones. 6:47 p.m., home to Lynn, to our quiet life. But tonight, the street was a war zone. Red and blue lights pulsed against the twilight, slashing across neighbors' pristine lawns in jagged emergency hues. Police cars lined the curb like sentinels, their radios spitting static and cryptic codes. An ambulance squatted in the middle of the road, its rear doors flung open, paramedics swarming a stretcher with grim efficiency. At the center of it all was my house, our house cordoned off with yellow tape that fluttered like grotesque party streamers. A uniformed officer stood by the front gate, arms crossed, face carved from stone. On the curb, where guests usually parked, a sleek BMW burned orange flames, licking the sky, black smoke curling like a demon into the dusk. Firefighters battled the inferno, their hoses hissing against the crackling blaze. I pulled into the driveway, killed the engine, and sat frozen, my brain refusing to process the scene. This had to be a mistake, a neighbor's accident spilling onto our property. Lynn was probably inside, peering through the curtains as rattled as I was. I stepped out, legs moving on autopilot, and approached the gate. The officer blocked my path, hand resting on his belt. "Sir, you need to stay back from the scene." I fumbled for my wallet, flashing my license. "This is my house. Ethan Nguyen. I live here." "What's going on? Is my wife okay?" He studied my ID with a scrutiny that felt excessive, glancing between my face and the photo 3 times. "She's inside, sir. Detective Kim will want to speak with you." He led me past the tape, and I caught a glimpse of the paramedics loading a man into the ambulance. His face was a bloodied mess, his expensive suit torn and stained unrecognizable. I'd never seen him before. Detective Sarah Kim appeared beside me, a wiry woman in her 40s with eyes that seemed to dissect my every twitch. "Do you know this individual, Mr. Nguyen?" she asked, her voice clipped. "No, never seen him," I said, my throat tight. "Who is he? What happened here?" She didn't answer directly. "Where were you this evening, sir?" The question hit like a slap. "Work. Riverside Logistics. I manage the evening shift. Left at 6:30, same as always. There's cameras, time cards, witnesses." She scribbled in a notebook, not meeting my eyes. "We'll need those details. Your wife says this man was a friend who stopped by unexpectedly. Says someone attacked him in your driveway and set his car on fire. Any idea who might do that?" The ground tilted beneath me. Lynn didn't have friends who dropped by unannounced. In 12 years of marriage, she'd been obsessive about the house, every visit planned, every surface spotless. An uninvited guest would have sent her into a tailspin. "I don't understand," I said, my voice hollow. "Lynn doesn't have people over without days of prep. She's particular." Detective Kim's eyebrows ticked upward. "Particular? Yeah, she plans everything: meals, cleaning, social stuff. A random visitor would stress her out." Even as I spoke, the words felt wrong, like I was describing a stranger. Kim's pen paused. "And no one might have a grudge against you. Someone who'd send a message by attacking a guest at your home." The implication landed like ice water. "They thought I did this, came home, found a man at my house, and torched his car after beating him senseless." The absurdity might have been funny if Kim's face weren't so deadly serious. "Detective, I've been at work since 2 Sunward p.m. My crew of 10 can confirm it. Security footage time logs, check them." She nodded, jotting more notes. We will. For now, this is an active crime scene. You can enter, but don't touch anything. Inside the living room was a makeshift command post. Officers snapped photos, bagged evidence, their boots scuffing Lynn's antique rug. The air reeked of smoke from the burning BMW outside. Lynn sat on the couch, wrapped in a police blanket, her mascara streaking her cheeks like war paint. Her hands trembled around a chipped coffee mug. When she saw me, fresh tears spilled. Ethan? Oh God, it was awful. I sat beside her instinct, urging me to comfort her, but something in her posture stopped me, shoulders hunched, eyes darting. What happened, Lynn? Who was that guy? I asked. Her words tumbled out too fast. I don't know. I mean, he's just a friend. Brandon. Something. From the gym. He stopped by about a book club. A book club? Lynn hadn't read a novel since we met. Detective Kim watched us, her pen moving, silently cataloging every flinch. Across the street, I glimpsed Megan Harper Lynn's best friend, lingering by a police cruiser. Her lips curled in a faint smirk gone so fast I might have imagined it. But I didn't. Something was wrong here, wronger than a burning car and a beaten man. The weight of it settled in my gut like a stone. The living room smelled like burnt rubber and betrayal, the acrid tang of the BMW's smoldering remains seeping through the windows. Lynn sat rigid on the couch, the police blanket slipping off her shoulders, her fingers twisting the edge of her sleeve like she could unravel the night's chaos. Officers milled around their radios, crackling their flashlights, slicing through the dim light of our home. Detective Sarah Kim stood by the antique coffee table, her sharp eyes flicking between Lynn's trembling form and my own guarded expression. I could feel the weight of her scrutiny like a net tightening around us both. Outside, the firefighters had subdued the blaze, but the skeleton of Brandon's car still glowed faintly, a charred monument to whatever had shattered our quiet life on Maple Street. Lynn, I said, my voice low steady, the tone I used at Riverside Logistics when a forklift driver screwed up a shipment. Tell me about Brandon. Her eyes darted to the floor, then to the window, anywhere but me. I told you, Ethan. He's just someone from the gym. He wanted to talk about a book club. Her words were brittle, like thin ice cracking underfoot. A book club. Lynn, who spent her evenings scrolling recipe blogs or rearranging the spice rack, had never cracked open anything thicker than a magazine. I leaned closer, my hands gripping the armrest of the couch. What's his last name? Her mouth opened, then closed her lips, quivering like a fish gasping on dry land. Walsh. Brandon Walsh. The name came too late, too rehearsed. Detective Kim's pen scratched against her notebook, her face unreadable. What gym, Lynn? I pressed. You've been at Fitness Plus for years. I've picked you up there, waited in the lot, seen the trainers. Which one is Brandon? Her composure fractured her hands, flying to her face, smearing what was left of her mascara. He's not a trainer, Ethan. Just a member. We talked sometimes. I sat back, the air between us, heavy with unspoken truths. Talked? I repeated the word, tasting like ash. Lynn, I've seen the credit card statements. You haven't been to Fitness Plus in 6 months. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the distant hum of a neighbor's sprinkler and the low murmur of officers outside. Lynn's breathing hitched shallow and quick, like she was teetering on the edge of a panic attack. Ethan, I can explain, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Explain what I said sharper now, my patience fraying. That a stranger in a $60,000 BMW shows up at our house, gets beaten to a pulp in our driveway, and his car goes up in flames, that the police think I did it, and you're telling me he's just a gym buddy. Her eyes welled up. But there was something else there. Guilt, raw and undeniable, etched into the lines of her face. I didn't mean for this to happen, she said, her voice breaking. He kept coming around. It wasn't supposed to be anything. Detective Kim stepped closer, her notebook now tucked under her arm. Mrs. Tran, you told us Mr. Walsh was a friend who stopped by unexpectedly. You didn't mention any prior relationship. Care to clarify? Lynn flinched her hands, dropping to her lap. It wasn't like that. I mean, it was just a few times. He was nice to me, okay. Ethan's always at work, and I was lonely, and... Her words trailed off, each one a dagger twisting deeper. 6 months? I said, my voice cold, cutting through her excuses. You've been lying to me for 6 months. Lynn's face crumpled, tears streaming freely now. It wasn't like that, Ethan. I swear it was just a mistake. And Megan, she said you'd never find out that it didn't mean anything. The name hit me like a punch. Megan Harper, Lynn's best friend, the one who'd been hovering outside with that fleeting smirk. Megan, I asked, my eyes narrowing. What does she have to do with this, Lynn? Froze, realizing her slip. She just knew about Brandon. She said I deserved to feel happy, that you were too focused on work to notice. I stood pacing to the window, catching another glimpse of Megan across the street, now talking to an officer, her posture too casual for the chaos. Megan told you to cheat on me, I asked, turning back to Lynn. She shook her head, frantic. No, not like that. She just encouraged me, said I should live a little. Detective Kim's voice cut in calm but pointed. Mr. Nguyen, we found gasoline from your lawnmower on the car. Your wife says she was inside when the attack happened. Heard shouting, saw the fire from the window. Called 911 right away. That sound right to you? I stared at Lynn, her eyes pleading, but the pieces weren't adding up. Lynn, why was Brandon here tonight? What was he doing in our driveway? She wrapped her arms around herself, rocking slightly. He just wanted to talk about personal things. The air felt thick, suffocating. Personal things. The phrase hung between us, heavy with the truth she wouldn't say. I noticed her left hand, the faint tan line where her wedding ring should have been. She'd put it back on, but not soon enough. The indentation was wrong. A silent confession. Personal things. I repeated, my voice like steel. In our home. In our bed. Lynn sobbed, but Detective Kim's gaze shifted to me, her pen moving again. We'll need to speak with Ms. Harper as well, she said. Seems like she might know more than she's letting on. Outside, the last of the police cars were pulling away, leaving the charred BMW under a tarp, a black stain on our perfect suburban street. Lynn's sobs filled the room, but they felt hollow, like a performance for an audience that wasn't buying it. Megan's name echoed in my head. Her smirk burned into my memory. This wasn't just about Lynn and Brandon. Something deeper, uglier was at play, and I was going to find out what. The house felt like a crime scene, long after the police left, the silence heavier than the chaos of flashing lights and crackling radios. Lynn had retreated to the guest room, her sobs muffled through the walls, leaving me alone in the living room. The air still carried the faint sting of smoke from Brandon's torched BMW, a reminder of the night's violence etched into the asphalt outside. I stood by the window, staring at the tarp-covered wreck, my mind racing. Lynn's lies were unraveling, but Megan Harper's name kept clawing at me. That smirk, that calculated ease, she was no bystander. Something rotten was buried here, and I wasn't going to wait for Detective Sarah Kim to dig it up. I powered on Lynn's laptop, left carelessly on the kitchen counter, its screen still glowing from her last use. Her password was the same as always, our anniversary, a bitter irony now. Her email was open, and there buried among recipe subscriptions and boutique sales was a thread from Megan. The subject line was blank, but the content hit like a freight train. "Don't back out now, Lynn. He's got it coming. Brandon's ready to make it worth your while." My pulse hammered as I scrolled. Megan had sent dozens of messages over months, each one dripping with venom. "Ethan's too busy playing warehouse boss to notice your miserable one red. Brandon can give you the life you deserve, a condo in Columbus, no more small-town boredom." Another dated last week. "Stick to the plan, or I'll make sure everyone at First Baptist knows what you've been up to." Blackmail. Megan wasn't just encouraging Lynn's affair. She was orchestrating it, pulling strings like a puppet master. My hands shook as I opened a hidden folder on the laptop one I'd installed months ago when Lynn started acting distant. A nanny cam app linked to cameras I'd tucked behind picture frames and bookshelves had been recording our home. I'd told myself it was paranoia, but now the footage loaded grainy but damning. There was Lynn, laughing with Brandon in our living room, his hand on her thigh, her wedding ring nowhere in sight. Worse, there was Megan sitting across from them, her voice low and commanding. "Once Ethan's out of the picture, we split his assets. His 401k alone is worth $500,000. I've got a buyer for the house already." My stomach churned. This wasn't just infidelity, it was a conspiracy. Megan, drowning in debt from her failing boutique, had weaponized Lynn's loneliness to ruin me. Brandon, a real estate shark, was the bait, promising Lynn luxury while planning to flip our home for profit. The footage showed him smirking Guyans too busy clocking overtime to notice. By the time he figures it out, we'll have the deed. The audacity, the betrayal. It was a knife in the gut, twisting deeper with every word. In Millfield, where church suppers and neighborhood barbecues define trust, this kind of scheming was a sin against everything we stood for. I called Detective Kim, my voice steady, despite the rage boiling inside. "I've got something you need to see." She arrived within the hour, her sharp eyes scanning the laptop screen as I played the footage. "This changes things," she said, her pen moving furiously. "Brandon Walsh has a history seducing wives cozying up to husbands' assets. He's been linked to 3 divorces in Columbus, each tied to real estate deals. Your wife's not his first mark." She paused, studying me. "And Megan Harper's boutique is underwater. She's been dodging creditors for a year." "Why me?" I asked, my voice tight. Kim shrugged. "Your house is on prime land. Developers have been eyeing Maple Street for years. Walsh likely saw you as an easy target. Stable job, predictable hours, trusting husband." Her words landed like blows, but they only sharpened my resolve. "There's more," I said, handing her a USB drive with the footage. "Megan's been blackmailing Lynn, threatening to expose her to our church. Check her emails." Kim nodded, tucking the drive into her pocket. "We'll bring Harper in for questioning. But Ethan, you need to stay out of this. Let us handle it." I nodded, but my mind was already elsewhere. I'd been watching Lynn drift for months, her late-night texts, her sudden gym sessions. The cameras weren't just a hunch, they were insurance. I'd caught her with Brandon weeks ago, their whispers in my home, their laughter mocking me. I hadn't acted then, but now knowing Megan's role, the rage was no longer a spark. It was a furnace, cold and controlled. As Kim left, I checked the footage again, time-stamped from last month. Megan in my kitchen, handing Lynn a burner phone. "Use this for Brandon," she'd said. "Ethan's too clueless to check your real one." Clueless. The word burned. I wasn't clueless anymore. Lynn's affair was one thing, but Megan's plan to strip me of my home, my savings, my life crossed a line no one in Millfield would forgive. I closed the laptop, the screen's glow, fading like the last shred of trust I had in my wife. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The morning sun cut through the blinds, painting our kitchen in Millfield with a sterile glow, as if the house itself knew it was no longer a home. Lynn had barely spoken since last night, her eyes red and puffy, darting nervously as she sipped coffee at the table. The charred stain of Brandon Walsh's BMW lingered outside, a grim reminder of the firestorm that had consumed our lives. My rage had hardened into something precise, like a blade honed over months of betrayal. Megan Harper's emails and the nanny cam footage burned in my mind, her voice scheming to steal my home, my savings, my life. Lynn's affair was a wound, but Megan's plot was an assault on everything Millfield stood for. Trust community, the sanctity of a man's hard-earned life. They'd pay for it. I met Christine Vo, my lawyer, at her downtown office, where law books lined the walls, and a view of Millfield's sleepy skyline screamed quiet power. Christine, a legend for her ironclad prenups, flipped through the file I'd brought. "Your prenup's airtight, Ethan," she said, her voice calm but lethal. Section 4. Infidelity voids all spousal support, asset division, everything. Lynn signed it 12 years ago, despite her lawyer's protests. I slid a USB drive across her desk. Police report Lynn's statement admitting a 6-month affair, credit card records, hotels, dinners, gifts I never saw, and footage of Megan Harper plotting with Brandon Walsh to frame me for fraud and take the house. Christine plugged in the drive, her eyes narrowing as she watched the nanny cam clips. Lynn laughing with Brandon in our living room, Megan orchestrating their plan like a conductor of chaos. "This is more than infidelity," Christine said, scribbling notes. "This is conspiracy to defraud. Harper's boutique is bankrupt, she's desperate. Walsh has a rap sheet of scams tied to divorces. You've got them dead to rights." I leaned back, the weight of her words fueling my resolve. "File the divorce papers today. Enforce every clause. And I want this public." "Public?" Christine raised an eyebrow. "The footage, the emails, leak them to Channel 5 News," I said. "Millfield deserves to know who Megan Harper really is. Brandon, too." She studied me, her pen pausing. "That's a bold move, Ethan. It'll ruin them socially, maybe legally." "You sure?" I nodded, my voice cold. "They tried to ruin me. Let them burn." Christine's grim smile matched my own. "I'll file by noon. Lynn has 7 days to vacate. Harper and Walsh. They'll face their own reckoning." By evening, the story broke. Channel 5's Evening News ran the headline, "Local businesswoman and developer caught in scandal." The footage edited for broadcast showed Megan's venomous smirk as she planned to bankrupt me, Brandon's casual arrogance as he mocked my work ethic. Millfield's churchgoers, PTA moms, and country club regulars were glued to their screens, their whispers of outrage spreading like wildfire. Brandon's real estate empire crumbled as clients pulled contracts, his face plastered across social media as a homewrecker. Megan's boutique, already failing, was abandoned, her name poison, in a town that valued loyalty above all. Lynn was waiting. When I got home, perched on the edge of the leather armchair, she'd always hated her blue dress, a desperate attempt to cling to normalcy. "Ethan, please," she said, her voice trembling. "I saw the news. I didn't know Megan was using me like that. I thought, I thought Brandon cared about me. Her tears were real, but they felt like theater now. You brought him into our bed, I said, my tone flat, unyielding. You let Megan play you to steal our home. What did you think would happen? I was lonely, she sobbed. You're always at the warehouse, and Megan said you didn't care anymore. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. I've called Dr. Ellis for couples counseling. I set my briefcase down, loosening my tie. Cancel it. You need a lawyer, Lynn. The divorce papers are coming tomorrow. Her coffee mug slipped, shattering on the hardwood brown liquid, pooling like blood. You can't do this, she whispered, her face pale. I gave you 12 years, and 6 months of lies I shot back. The prenup you signed says you get nothing. Pack for the guest room tonight. She stood, swaying her hands, grasping at the air. Ethan, I'm sorry. I'll never see Brandon again. Please. I stepped closer, my voice low, dangerous. You know what's worse than your affair, Megan's plan to frame me for fraud, to take everything I've built? And you went along with it. Her eyes widened, but before she could respond, I turned away. 7 days, Lynn. Then you're gone. The truth I didn't tell her, the truth I'd buried deep, was that I'd orchestrated more than she'd ever know. Weeks ago, I'd hired a man from Columbus, a shadow with no name, to wait for Brandon in our driveway. The Louisville Slugger, the gasoline from our shed, the match, it was all me, planned with the precision of a warehouse shift. I'd even planted a burner phone in Megan's car, linking her to the attack, a gift for Detective Kim's investigation. They'd crossed me, violated every code of decency Millfield held dear. Now they'd face consequences my way. The Millfield sunrise spilled across my kitchen, bathing the empty table in gold. No coffee mug sat opposite mine, no echo of Lynn's footsteps upstairs. She'd moved out yesterday, her car packed with clothes and jewelry, the only things our prenup left her. The house felt vast, like a lung taking its first full breath in years. Outside Maple Street was quiet. The black stain where Brandon Walsh's BMW had burned now faded under a fresh layer of asphalt. Millfield's gossip mill churned, neighbors whispered at church, their eyes darting to me with a mix of pity and awe. I didn't care. The truth was out, and it tasted like victory. Detective Sarah Kim called me to the station that morning. Her voice clipped over the phone. The interview room was stark fluorescent lights, buzzing metal chairs cold against my back. She sat across from me, a thick file open, her pen tapping rhythmically. Your alibi checks out, Ethan, she said, flipping pages. Security footage, time cards, 10 witnesses from Riverside Logistics. You were at work when Walsh was attacked. I nodded, my face a mask of calm. Glad that's cleared up. Any leads on who did it? Kim leaned back, her eyes narrowing. Funny thing. We found a burner phone in Megan Harper's car, texts linking her to the attack. She's been arrested for conspiracy to commit assault. My pulse stayed steady, though. Inside, I smiled. That phone was my handiwork, slipped into Megan's glove box during the chaos of that night. Kim continued. Walsh is out of the hospital, pins in his ribs, a limp he'll carry for months. His business is toast. Clients dropped him after Channel 5 aired your footage. She paused, studying me. You're a lucky man, Mr. Nguyen. This could have gone very differently. Lucky? I repeated the word, heavy, with irony. My wife cheated, her friend tried to bankrupt me, and I'm a suspect in a crime I didn't commit. Doesn't feel lucky. Kim's lips twitched, almost a smile. Point taken. But between us, your wife wasn't forthcoming about Walsh and Harper. She's lawyered up, but the evidence is damning. I stood shaking her hand. Thanks, detective. I just want to move on. She nodded, but her eyes lingered, like she sensed the truth I'd buried, a truth no one would ever prove. Back home, I found a letter slipped under the door. Lynn's handwriting shaky, but unmistakable. Ethan, I'm sorry. I was pregnant with Brandon's child, but I lost it last week. The stress, the guilt, it was too much. Please, let's talk. The words stung a fleeting pang of pity for the woman I'd loved for 12 years. But it passed. Lynn had chosen her path, 6 months of lies, Megan's schemes, a betrayal that gutted our life. The miscarriage didn't erase that. I tore the letter to shreds, letting the pieces scatter across the kitchen floor like ash. The local news buzzed with updates. Megan's arrest was the talk of Millfield. Her boutique boarded up her name, a curse at First Baptist. Churchgoers who'd once fawned over her now shunned her, their moral outrage a firestorm in a town built on trust. Brandon, hobbling on crutches, had fled to Columbus, his reputation in ruins, his condos unsold. Lynn was living in her parents' basement, a 36-year-old outcast, her affair the scandal of the season. Mutual friends told me she'd tried to spin herself as the victim, but Millfield wasn't buying it. The prenup held firm. Christine Vaux's work was bulletproof. Lynn got nothing but her car and shame. I sold the house that week, the deed signed to a young family who'd never know its ghosts. Half the proceeds went to Millfield's community center, a donation that earned me a plaque and a round of applause at the next town meeting. The other half funded my new start, a condo downtown steps from Riverside Country Club. Saturday morning, I met my buddy Mike for golf, the fairway stretching green and endless under a cloudless sky. You look different, he said, lining up his shot. Lighter. I grinned, my club resting easy in my hands. 12 years of dead weight will do that. Over lunch at the clubhouse, acquaintances stopped by offering nods of respect. You handled it with class, Ethan, one said. Class. They didn't know about the hired thug, the burner phone, the calculated swing of a Louisville slugger in the dark. They didn't need to. Justice had been served not in courtrooms, but in the wreckage of 3 lives that dared to cross me. Megan faced jail time, Brandon a lifetime of pain, Lynn a future of regret. I'd played the game better than they ever could. That night, I poured a bourbon, the good stuff Lynn always called too expensive, and sat in my new leather chair, the city lights winking through the window. My phone buzzed, Lynn's number, a voicemail I deleted without listening. Our business was done. The king-size bed in my new place stretched like an ocean mine, alone to claim. I lay back, hands behind my head, the silence a symphony of freedom. No lies, no schemes, no compromises. Just me, my victory, and a life I'd earned. The sun set over Millfield, painting the sky in shades of fire, and I closed my eyes, drifting into a sleep deeper than any I'd known in years.